Well, aloha kakahiaka, everybody. Today is March 18th, 2022, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning Hawaii time. You are joining us at the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show. Welcome. And we got a lot of our friends over here who are with us. First of all, my co-hosts and friends over here. We got Dylan Nonaka, who's from the Big Island, and we've got Scott Startzman, who's with us from Oahu, and we got Heidi Dallinger, who is with us from Maui. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're all here. We've got a few people who have jumped on already. Jim got pole position. Sunny and feels like 77, New York City. Awesome, Jim. Welcome. Glad to see you here again. What is the temperature in New York City? Is it 77? And Chris is with us. Chris Longley. Hey, Chris. Happy Aloha Friday. Happy Aloha Kakahiaka. Welcome, Chris back. Griff is back. Math Jungle from Reno, Nevada. Hey, Math Jungle. My daughter is an assistant researcher at the University of Nevada in Reno. So Reno's a very special place. Martin, good friends. Dwayne's back. Hey, Dwayne, what's up? What's up, Dwayne? How's that? Good to see you, Dwayne. Chris is here. Christy is here. Christy, welcome. Another one from Reno, Nevada. Actually, we have two folks from Reno, Nevada. How's that? Math Jungle and Christy with him. How cool. Welcome. Let's kind of let's do our mic check and kind of see it. Let's warm everything up over here. Why don't we go counterclockwise? Heidi, Scott, and Dylan. Christy is the math channel. Excellent. Math channel. Excellent. You know, my daughter actually taught math classes, was a math tutor for a while. Heidi, what's going on, Heidi? How are you? What's the coffee today?
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Aloha Friday. I have not had coffee yet, but I am looking forward to it very much after the show. So, as you know, who've been watching, I love coffee, and Maui has some of the best coffee.
There you go. That's all that needs to be said until we get some coffee. I guess Heidi's not going to be talking. Heidi, you need to get you some more coffee so you'll talk some more. Anyway, Scott, how's it going, Scott? Give us the Oahu sound check there. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Hopefully everything sounds okay. But yeah, we're into March Madness, so we got a little college basketball going on. The only thing is, living out here, you got to wake up super early to get your sporting events. So games are on already. I think they were on at like 7 in the morning today. So, I grew up in North Carolina, which is Tobacco Road, and ACC basketball is huge for me. So this is a good time of the year for me to sit down and try to get a few games in if I can.
You're, well, it's like East Coast is 6 hours. It's a 6-hour time difference, right? So it's kind of serious.
Yeah, I think this weekend, we changed, didn't it? Or did it happen already? Yeah, it happened already. That's why we're at 9 a.m.
That's why we started at 9 o'clock. Yeah. That 6-hour time difference makes a big one. Dylan, what's going on in the Big Island, buddy? How's it going?
Just a beautiful day. Good to be back. I was on the mainland early this week for a little bit of work, and then spring break, my family came with me. So we went to Legoland and SeaWorld and the Midway, which was a super cool experience going on the aircraft carrier down there in San Diego. And spent like 3 hours on it. Highly recommend it if you've never done it before. It's like a museum now, and you get to go through all of the different areas on the battleship, and it's a really cool kind of flashback in time because you still have like rotary phones. This was built during World War II, never made it into service for World War II because the war ended before it was done, but then was in service for the Korean War, Vietnam, and I think even the Gulf War before the ship was retired. But really cool experience, especially when you have 11 and 13-year-old boys, stuff that they, and I never knew how aircraft carriers work, like how they land planes, and you think it's a runway, but it's really not. I mean, you got all this really cool technology, and I know they figured that out back in the 50s is pretty impressive.
Unbelievable. That would be cool. Those things are ginormous. And this is an old one. They're huge.
Yeah, we literally spent 3 hours walking around on the ship, and stopped at a few places to get they have guys vets from Navy vets that will talk about different areas of the ship and stuff. But I mean, literally, you can keep moving for 3 hours throughout the ship. I mean, it's you can go down to the engine rooms, all of the areas where they slept, and the mess decks, and then the bridge and the tower. You can go on all over the flight deck. It's really cool.
That's amazing. I'm gonna. Someone else has joined us. And by the way, is my audio breaking up? I don't know if my audio is breaking. Okay, it sounds good. All right, good. Mark is back with us. Mark Whitehill is a alumni from the Islander Ohana and hanging out on Oahu with his family. Hey, Mark, welcome back, buddy. Great to see you. Good to see you back. Neil is Neil, we're looking forward to the Islander Ohana cohort that's starting in April 30th. More news about that. Neil is with us this morning. Welcome, Neil. Excellent. All right, let's go. It is that time. Let's do a little bit of a news, some news updates, and let's get a quick thing on kind of what's happening here today. So let's see here. So gang, no more masks. So no more is a kind of a local sort of a slang. No more masks. It looks like finally we're the last state. We're number 50. Finally, Hawaii is going to be. We're going to be taking away apparently the mask mandates are going to be going away on the 25th of March, which will finally bring us in line with like the rest of the world. Wasn't quite what I said. I had predicted earlier that these all were going to go away by the State of the Union address, where I'm a little bit late on that, but nonetheless, it is there. And I want my team to kind of comment on this later when we kind of go around our discussions. It's 1.1 million folks for a home in Hawaii now. That is the median. That is the median sales price for Oahu and Maui. Kauai is actually at 1.3 million. So it's kind of amazing. If you've been with us on the show, we've been kind of tracking these prices, and it kind of inched up, and it was, I mean, when it was below $1 million and then it was $1 million, that was a big deal. And now it's at 1.1 already. So anyway, so there's some other stories going on about pets. Pets are getting, if you're bummed out about if you've gotten squeezed out of the market in Hawaii because of high prices, well, don't worry. So are cats and pets are getting squeezed out of the market. So there's a sad story, frankly, and maybe Heidi can comment on this. Is Maui County. The number one reason that family give up their pets, according to the humane societies there, is that they can't keep them because of housing. Rentals, pets and rentals do not go well together. Dylan had made this comment a long time ago. Good luck if you're trying to get a pet in. So if you are planning on bringing pets, you got to do a lot of extra planning for that. And then finally, a second home. Let me bring up the full screen here so you can see the weather as well. Second home tax increases. This is coming up, folks. There's a lot of talk about tax hikes going up. I believe in Maui, there's a big one. 70%. I didn't know this. 70% of home purchases in 2020 were from non-owner occupied second homes in Maui. Maybe Heidi can comment about that. So there is talk about increasing those second home taxes. If you're looking at buying a home in Hawaii, certainly on Maui, if it's going to be your second home, be prepared to pay for additional taxes that are going to be going up. There's a couple of other stories, but I want to go around. There's been a Russian spy. We have a Russian spy story. I don't know if you guys heard about that. There's a Russian spy on Kauai that was trying to lobby getting there's an old Fort Elizabeth is one of the oldest, if not the first fort, and it was built by Russians way pre-statehood in the 1800s or something like that. There's a little bit of controversy. So Hawaii's got a Russian spy, and there's a Waipio road closure. Dylan, I want to hear about that. So why don't we do this? So let's do local news. Dylan, let's go clockwise. Dylan, Scott, and Heidi. Dylan, there was a road closure in Waipio, but I mean, if you want to comment on that at all, I don't know if that's kind of being a big deal or not. But what else is going on the Big On market updates, news updates? What do you got, Dylan? Unmute.
From the market update standpoint, we're like broken records. I mean, saying the market is still strong. The number of units continue to fall just because of the reduced number of properties on the market. But the interesting thing this last month was there was actually a decrease in the overall median value for the island of Hawaii. But that's mainly due to all of the sales shifting to the east side. So because the west side sales have almost dried up. There's hardly any inventory. There's more homes selling on the east and the rural parts of the island, which is dragging the median price down, right? Because median is not average. Median is the middle home that's sold. So there's just less stuff that's selling in the higher price ranges because that stuff is all been sold. And so the homes in the areas with more affordable homes are selling at a higher rate, which is kind of bringing that median price down. So it's an interesting kind of shift in the stats this last month. But condo sales over 100% island wide and pretty much in every market. So people are getting over 100% of what they're asking for in the condo market. So it's totally on fire.
Wait. They're getting over 100% from asking. So you're saying that if they're asking, let's say 300,000, they're getting 600,000.
Well,
No.
on average, they're getting
On average.
101% is what it is, right? So just over. So, but there's definitely
okay.
many condos selling for 10, 20% over list price. So
Okay.
it's in the west side of the island, it's actually 105%, but then island wide it's 101% average list to sold price. Yeah. So
Got it.
we don't see that too often where the overall, we'll see onesie twosies there, but where overall the average is over 100% is pretty unique.
Right, because usually you get sometimes you won't expect to get your listing price in a typical market. You get a little bit below because et cetera. Okay.
Yeah, and on average it's always below. It's like 95%, 96%. It's kind of is in a normal market. And land it's like 90%. A lot of times you can negotiate land prices way down, but yeah, very, very strong final listed sold price across the board. At homes it's 97%, land it's 91%. So really strong across the board.
This thing ain't going up. Scott, before we go to you, I want to. Okay, so gang, so Christy says hello from the 9th Island. Aloha, Christy, welcome. We're glad you're here. So here's a trivia question for our audience here. So what is the 9th Island? What is the 9th Island? Pop that in the comments. What is the 9th Island? Scott, give us the update. What's going on Oahu? News, real estate, anything you want to share about Oahu?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Dylan was saying and add a little bit to it. So single family home price on Oahu is up 21% this year to date, January and February. Our median home price just hit 1.125 million. So continuing to go up. And our list to sales price ratio on average for single family homes here is 101%. So sellers are on average getting more, 1% more than what they're listing it for. The interesting thing is I actually ran my numbers just to see kind of how I compete with the marketplace. And I'm getting 107% on average on the listings that I'm bringing on the market. So between negotiation and skill, whatnot, I'm significantly outperforming the market, which was good to see. The interesting thing for me though is condo prices, condo sales. Condo prices are up 10%. Sales are outpacing single family homes by a 2-to-1 ratio. So I call part of this what we call the spillover or the overflow demand effect. There's not enough homes in the single family home side, so we're actually seeing fewer sales happen on that single family home side, but that's because there's not enough inventory out there to choose from. So the condo sales are now taking off significantly and inventory is decreasing. The interesting thing, so I've been talking about this active number of single family homes on the market right now. In a normal market, we'll have 1,600 to 2,000 active homes on the market. At the bottom or at the height of 2006 market, at the low side, we had 814. We just hit 400. We finally got back to 400. We were in that 390 range. So I'm like, yay. But the reality is when you think of the perspective of that, it's nothing. I'm now the next step I'm wanting us to see is last year we were at like 450. Okay, I want to see us get back to that and increase. But here's what's happening with the condos. And I've mentioned this. We were at like 1,030 2 months ago. Previous episode 990, last episode 960. We're now at 899 active on the condos. So they're disappearing. That's where everyone's shifting to. They're more affordable and there's more options to choose from. So we're moving to that side. The inventory is shrinking. The prices should continue to increase. And Japan, the news of today is Japan announced that they are lifting their restrictions on travel and all the restrictions on COVID. So now the international buyer should come back. And tourism was off. I saw the other day, Japanese tourism was off 98%. So we have a huge influx from the international market to be able to come to Oahu.
Man, I mean, and it just feels like it feels like we're so back to kind of normal again. I mean, I haven't driven through Waikiki for a long time, but all the stats are saying that I guess all the stats are saying that we're right back at pre-COVID levels of tourism, if not more. But I'm certain that is only for like analyzing the the westbound market, the mainland U.S. It's not counting the foreign market. So when that foreign market comes in, and you've made these predictions a long time ago, Scott. You said, "Hey, man, as soon as these international buyers start coming in, they're gonna, this is kind of I don't want to say kind of scare territory in terms of like the prices, but that this thing is showing no like Dylan said, we're broken records. We should just like have a pre-recorded version of like a show like last year. Just play it again. It's the same thing. Go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry.
The one interesting thing is interest rates. I mean, we're clipping along,
Right.
where the lack of inventory, we're clipping along at the same price appreciation range as last year, but rates are almost at 4%, and Fannie and Freddie are getting out of that. They're trying to get out of the second home investment home market. So we've qualified some second home investor rates, and they're at like 4.75. So not only adding 20% on the appreciation, but add into the fact the interest rate's higher, how much more is that costing you to purchase that home? At what point do you see that deceleration? I mean, it's got to happen at some point.
When does the price kind of bend the curve, right? When does the increase rate bend the curve? Yeah. Well, we're gonna find out. I don't know when it is. We got to say hi to a few more friends who have joined us. Sherman Glaston, aloha from Tennessee. Welcome, Sherman. We are glad to have you with us. Heather, don't give up, girl. Aloha from Portland. Haven't given up the dream yet, Heather. You just got to stay focused on it and find something. Look, at the end of the day, and I want to ask you guys about this too. At the end of the day, get whatever you can afford. Just get it. Whatever it is, just get yourself in that market. I mean, look, I bought when I was in my 20s, and I only bought what I could afford. It was a leasehold 1-bedroom, but I bought it. Tom's back. Tommy is an alumni of the Island Ohana. Tom, welcome. Nothing to be sorry about, Tom. We're just glad that you're here, buddy. We are glad that you're here. And of course, Kinaya is with us. Kinaya is an alumni of the Islander Ohana. Kinaya, we are thinking about you, girl, because I know that you're going to make this Oahu thing happen. You've been talking about it and dreaming about it. Islander Ohana member, met you in person at one of our meetups. It was great. And so don't give it up. We have somebody, Tulsi is the t-shirt. I'm seeing Tulsi. Hey, Scott, thanks for getting us into our house in Kailua. While the getting was, well, better than it is now. We're very grateful. Hey, man, look, gang, it's a tough deal to go. But if you got someone like Scott who's got 20 years behind him, and contacts up the wazoo to get the job done, if you got a chance, it's going to make it. Okay, let's do a quick follow before we go to Heidi. The answers have come in quickly. What is the ninth island? Of course, it's Vegas. Jay came in with Vegas, and Kinaya kind of kicked in with Vegas and also gave us clarification on the state. But yes, the ninth island is Las Vegas, because that's kind of where all the locals go. That's kind of where the locals go to kind of take, where do people in Hawaii, where do islanders go for vacation? They go to Vegas. Patrick is back with us. Patrick, welcome back. Aloha, guys. And Heidi giving the shout out. Yeah, Kinai, when I started planning, the medium home price was $835. Isn't that crazy, sad? You name it. Have you discussed Oahu home slipping into the ocean? No, Tom, we have not. Thank you for bringing that up. I will make it. We're going to talk about that. Thanks, Tom. Kyle, there we go. Carl Kelly. Scott is a prince. Yes, a prince. That's a good term. I heard that. I've heard that used. Scott is a prince indeed. Prince. Prince Scott. It rings. It sounds good. It rolls off of my tongue. All right, Heidi, your turn. Heidi, what's going on Maui? Give us the update. Let's see. Yeah, give us the update, Heidi. News, market, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, consistent with on the Big Island and on Oahu, I mean, our market's still extremely strong here. Condos prices are up 29.5% compared to last year. The median price for condos now is $725 on Maui. Single family homes 1.1. In February, we saw that the number of properties going under contract compared to this time last year was down about 30%. And I mean, that's really just a lack of inventory. The thing that keeps the market going is demand. And I have not seen that stopping, from my vantage point, which is being a realtor here and getting calls about properties. There's just more buyers in the market than there are sellers right now. So, I mean, very simply, that kind of shows you where things are. Vacation rental rates have been very strong. And then with the lifting of the Safe Travels program, meaning you no longer need to upload your vaccine card or COVID test to come over to Maui starting, I believe, March 25th. I mean, I think that's just going to open things up even more. So, we don't know what the future will hold, but right now, that's where we are.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of look at the history of this. It's really been a completely remarkable thing, and we should talk about that, sometime. Like, what does this? So, what's the, what are the takeaways, right? What are the takeaways that have been that we kind of get out of this? Before, okay, so let's move on. First of all, a real quick comment from Carl Kelly, who said Scott prevented us from buying some awful money pits. This is, I mean, look, we all try to avoid. We all try to avoid talking to salespeople, right? And so we all try to avoid talking to salespeople. And so we put realtors in that sort of salesperson, and we think we could kind of do our own research, and we think that we could buy real estate by doing Zillow searches, because we're so used to being, you're used to be able to go on Amazon and just buy a product, and you think that the buying real estate is the same thing. It's not. It's not. It's incredibly complicated. And having someone, why not have someone? Kind of free to the buyer anyway. Why not have someone who's got 20 years behind you at work? Absolutely. Hey, real quick. So what of this? A real quick question from Patrick McKenna. Is there any difference in appreciation between single family and condos? If you guys have, so I'm going to say the default answer is no. But Scott, Dylan, Heidi, is there any difference in the appreciation between single family and condos, or are they pretty much all kind of tracking about the same? About the same?
I mean, I'll go first. Yeah. There is a difference. I mean, we're at 22% for single family home and 10% on condo right now, but that's because the focus, they're two totally separate marketplaces. So they are going to act differently, but they move together. In other words, single family homes, there's no inventory right now. That was the demand during COVID. People didn't want to be in a condo high rise. They wanted space and land and things away from each other. And people weren't coming here. A second home buyer is naturally going to pick a condo because you can lock it up, walk away, and you don't have to worry about this whole maintenance program and things. So yeah, now the condo market is starting to follow the single family home market. And as we see that inventory on the condo side dive, it's going to start to catch up on the single family home price side. But there's more inventory to choose from in condos. There's less than single family homes. So they will act a little different, but mostly they're going to follow similar trends. It's not like one's going to underperform here while the other one takes off forever. That they will catch up with each other.
They've been tracking. Okay, so that's great. Anybody want to add anything to that? Heidi or Dylan, you want to add something to what Scott said?
Yeah, I don't have the data friendly, but I mean, just from an observational standpoint, the first 6 months of 2001. Home prices were appreciating very quickly. The condos kind of hadn't taken off yet. But if you look at the last 6 months, condos have gone up like 25-30% in some complexes just in the last 6 months. Homes haven't gone as fast. So they're going to catch up with each other. I think there'll be a net kind of, equal gain. But right now, the condos market is on fire. So it's definitely appreciating much quicker than the housing market is.
Interesting. So I'm kind of hearing that they eventually kind of, they average out sort of to be about the same degree of appreciation over time, but individual market fluctuations could create, increases that vary. Like you guys said, houses started first, they caught on fire, and then they've kind of slowed down now, and now the condos are doing their catch up. Heidi, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just looking on Maui. So within the last year, condo prices are up 29.5% just compared to last year, and house prices are up a little over 19%. So you're seeing the larger appreciation more recently in the condo market. But as was said earlier, I mean, coming out of COVID and last year, that's when the single family home market was really hot and we were seeing more of those sales. But in general, I mean, we're all in the same market. It's all housing. So it's, going to roughly follow each other if you're looking at like very broad trends.
Yeah, over the long term kind of brush. Go ahead, Scott.
And keep in mind, I mean, you could look single family home, you could look neighborhood to neighborhood, and they act different. So, when we talk broad numbers, so when I sit down with people, I always look, okay, here's what Island Wide's doing, and here's what the neighborhood you're looking in is doing, and how are they the similar, or how are they the same? So what should we expect? But I mean, you can break down single family home neighborhoods, and they act different because they're different markets.
Right, that's a really good way of looking at it. So the districts will vary in prices because of the difference of the market. But on an overall trend, it kind of it's pretty kind of unmistakable. Very, very interesting. All right, so we're going to move on. I queued up my questions. So we're trying a new feature here. We started this a couple of shows ago, and I kind of really enjoyed it. So I have a question for the Ohana. So this is a question that I like to get your folks. If you're watching, I'd like to get your folks' comments. Throw your response to this question in the comment slide, and I got a little bit of a twist on it. So we got this question from Craig, and Craig says, "Look, if I want to retire in Hawaii, is it best to buy a home or rent one? I currently own my home in San Diego." All right, so gang, so here's the twist now. So Craig's, as you saw, Craig owns a home in San Diego, and he's going to retire in Hawaii. So he's at retirement age. Should he rent or buy? Now, here's the twist I'd like you all to kind of think through over here. So the twist I'd like you to take is I'd like you to answer opposite of what you would do. So in other words, if you would buy, I want you to give a reason why renting might be a good idea. And if you're thinking of renting, why would buying be a good idea? Let's get a little bit of, I kind of want to shake this up, and I kind of want folks to think of this. There are good reasons. If Ray, if you're here, Ray is an Islander alumni, and Ray is retired, moved to Hawaii, and he's renting. And he gave good reasons why he's renting. So throw the answer. Let's kind of shake this up and see what it goes. What advice would you give Craig opposite to what you would do? Opposite to what you would do, if you want. If you can't kind of think opposite to what you would do, that's fine. Then give your reason for why he should rent or buy. But that's the Ohana question. I'd like y'all to get your feedback on that, and let's move on. And I'll throw the responses out. We had a quick question here. So Paul has been with us. Paul, welcome back. Paul has been with us on a bunch of shows. So I'm gonna. Let me read his question first, and before we talk, I want to kind of make a clarification. So his question is, so if Hawaiians refuse to build a significant number of units, what in the name of flippity flip causes inventory to rise? Great question. So Paul, quick clarification. So and this is like a little sort of a cultural tip for everybody. When you're talking about people that live in Hawaii residents, we do not use the term Hawaiians. Even though it's normally the case, if you live in California, you're a Californian, and if you live in Chicago, you're a Chicagoan, and if you live in New York, you're a New Yorker. But if you live in Hawaii, you're not a Hawaiian. You are a Hawaii resident, or I use the term Islander. You're a Hawaii Islander. But the term Hawaiian always means, if you're referring to a person, when you talk about Hawaiians, you're always referring to a native Hawaiian. Native American, a native Hawaiian, not a person that lives in Hawaii. So clarification, Paul, in case you use that in the future, just something to think about. Okay, so if Hawaiians refuse to build a segment, what does cause inventory to rise? Nothing, except people leaving it. I mean, it's almost like fixed inventory. It's kind of like, it's like Bitcoin. Price keeps going up because after a while there'll be no more Bitcoins being produced, and that's going to be the end of it. So the laws of economics kind of state what they state. Look, you could draw a direct line. Back in the 70s, there was a dramatic shift in the housing regulations. In the 70s, a lot of legislation popped out because people saw homes going up everywhere, and they all said, "Okay, this has got to stop," and it did. And the prices have gone up significantly. Anybody want to add their response to that? Let's go counterclockwise. If there's anything you want to add, Heidi, you go first, then Scott, then Dylan on Paul's topic.
Well, as realtors, when we're talking about inventory, that's just the number of units for sale at any particular time. So if 5 people list their house in the neighborhood, we have inventory has increased. We have 5 new houses to sell. But you're completely right. I mean, the overall inventory is not growing. I mean, unless there's new building and new development, which is, I believe slowly over time will increase, but especially on Maui, it's a very, very slow process, and land is limited, and the amount of land that's actually zoned for development is limited. So it's not like the Midwest where there's just acres of cornfields that you can build houses on outside the perimeter.
That's right, and nobody wants development in Hawaii. We don't want it, but we want a price to go down. Scott, you want to add, Scott, and then Dylan, anything you want to add to Paul's question?
Yeah, prices going up to it's going to be an affordability thing at some point, or a larger economic catastrophe in some kind of way, major shift economically, like a pandemic or something that might might happen. But
That didn't.
yeah,
The pandemic didn't do anything. It made prices worse. But anyway.
I know it went the other direction. That's why it's like, oh, who knows? But yeah, I mean, affordability comes into play. So as prices keep going up, at some point you start to hit a ceiling. You start to lose people who can't afford that, or as interest rates go up because people buy in a monthly payment, most people. So the same thing starts to happen. So you start to lose the demand. And once you start to lose the demand side because we don't increase the supply side enough here, at least on Oahu, and pretty much throughout the Hawaiian Islands, and we're limited in land, then those two should start to balance out. If you start to have a bigger shift economically, then you may have more sellers come on the market at that point.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't, obviously this can't go on forever, but it doesn't show any signs of stopping. Dylan, anything you want to add to this topic?
I was going to add a little bit more cultural context to your comment about classification of Hawaiians, and I know that probably wasn't meant that way in terms of native Hawaiians. It was more meant towards residents of Hawaii. But in my opinion, there is a significant amount of outsiders that buy here and then oppose new housing, right? So that's something to be culturally aware of and sensitive to, is if you do buy here and you come here, I mean, we're not opposed to people coming here, but don't come here and then want to close the door behind you, right? Because that is a big part of it, is those people get politically involved. They have time because they're retired, and they want to preserve the island. And I get that. That's a worthy cause, but you're definitely contributing to the problem when you have that attitude. And there's a lot of people that have that attitude when they get here.
I believe you called that last haole off the boat syndrome, if I'm not mistaken.
I couldn't recall if I had shared that term or not, but yes, that is.
You did, and I actually made a video.
That's a scientific term.
I made a video about this. I made a video about it, and I posted it on the Living in Hawaii channel, which is and the title was, the worst kind of resident. And the worst kind of resident is the one that moves over here and says, hey, now that I've moved over here, nobody else can come in because I've got my piece. Yes. So no more homes after mine gets built. So yeah, thank you, Dylan, for sharing that. Yeah. Okay, so let's we got a few more topics over here that I want to cover. So we have actually we're getting some really good activity over here. So let's move on. Let me do this real quick. Before this, we got so it's that time again. What's occurred is Islander Ohana, the cohort is open. I sent out the emails to those who pre-registered for early bird access. We are forming our cohort. It's going to start in April. Not registered for Jan 22. That's wrong. It's registered for April 30th. It's going to start at the end of April. And so, gang, this is what this is all about, right? I put together the Islander Ohana, which you hear me reference. There's a lot of folks who are alumni who attend, who go to the show, who participated. The whole point is to, Hawaii's a big move. It's a real big move, and most people that move to Hawaii leave because they don't do the planning. It's a big deal that they're not quite prepared. It's very, very difficult to prepare correctly. So what we've got is this is the Islander Ohana. It's learned decades of wisdom. I've taken my 40 years plus, and also there's a real estate course that Scott and Heidi and Dylan have participated on. That's all there. You pick up this stuff, make new friends because you join the Islander Ohana alumni, which is a growing group. We've got, I think, 50 or 60 people who are part of it right now, and we connect you with trusted locals, whatever you need, including a jobs program. So it's registered now. It's a limited cohort. I'm only going to take 15 people, and it's going to close fairly soon. We're going to start in about a month, and there is an early bird discount. So I'm going to put a link in the comments. If you're interested, get on the registration, join. The cohort's going to start, and we're going to have a good time with it. We're looking forward to it. All right. Let's we got a couple of questions over here. A couple came in. So I think Tom is kind of hitting this with the answer to, I believe, the real estate, the rent versus buy. Tom says, Tom is also Islander Ohana alumni. We plan to retire in Hawaii this summer. Several years ago, we planned on leasing in Hawaii in retirement. But when interest rates went down about 4 years, the monthly nut is about the same or actually less when you own. You set aside the down payment. Because the long-term rentals are almost non-existent and long-term rental costs have skyrocketed. So, Tom, it sounds like you're kind of suggesting that Craig buy instead of rent, depending on how things go. So that's a great consideration. Excellent. Carl came back with a question. Bill 41 will reduce the value of our attached rental unit. What will Bill 41 do to the single-family home market? Scott, this is for you. Can you touch really very quickly on Bill 40? And this is What's Bill 41? First of all, real quick, Scott, what's
Yeah.
Bill 41 in the
Bill,
sentence?
Bill 41 is where they're gonna. Well, they haven't done it yet. They've gotten through 2 phases. They got one more vote for it, but it's where residential zoning, anything non-resort zoning, apartment zoning, residential zoning, will go from 30-day minimum rental to 180 days.
It's going
And
to dramatically change the market for rentals if you're outside a resort area, right?
yeah, and it's not going to do anything to the single-family home market, especially where Carl is in Kailua. That's the most pretty much insulated market on Oahu and high demand. Other areas, no, I don't think it will because there's so few people that rent out. First of all, if you have an ADU, minimum rental for an ADU is 6 months anyway. So
An ADU stands for attached dwelling unit.
it's accessory dwelling unit. Yeah, but basically it doesn't have to be attached, but same concept. Ohana is different. It's supposed to be for a family member. So yeah, no, I mean it's not going to impact anything. There are very few people that rent out on 30-day minimum anyway. So it's not going to do anything.
So good news, Carl. Not going to affect the market too much. Although your attached dwelling unit, you'll have to kind of your accessory dwelling unit, your rental. You're going to have to kind of think that through. Short-term vacation rentals could very well be illegal unless they're at 6 months. 6 months are up. Alex, will Bill 41 impact nurses that do a 3-month contract with the hospitals? Is there still like an exception rider in that bill, Scott? Are you tracking that?
Yeah, they had gone to the exception component for this, which was never gonna work anyway. Like you got to go to DPP to get approval, and they can't even pass a building permit, much less do this. So
And DPP is Department of Planning and Permitting.
correct. Actually, they adjusted it from 180 days on this last component, and they're proposing 90 days. So instead of 30, it'd go to 90 days for Bill 41, which traveling nurses on a 3-month contract would still fit right in that category.
Interesting. All right. Let's see. I got Tom had popped a question earlier that I did want to cover. So Tom, I appreciate you sharing that. Have you have you discussed the Oahu homes slipping into the ocean? Well, I believe it's home that was on the North Shore. So there was a story, and I don't have a graphic. Tom, if you have a link to a page, can you pop it in the comments? I'll try to bring it up on the screen to give people a visual. I do not have an image prepared, but look. So there was a story, and I think a lot of folks were posting this. I think Kenai, if I'm not mistaken, you posted a link to this, the story or this picture on the private Islander Ohana Facebook group. So there was a home on the North Shore that made the headlines for a couple days, where the home, basically fell into the ocean. It was like right on the shore, and there's sand, and the crashing waves, and the home kind of fell in. And so that caught a couple of headlines. So look, here's the bottom line on this: is that if you look at the island chain on a map with Kauai on the uppermost left-hand side. Actually, if you look at the entire Hawaiian chain, it spans really long. I believe Midway Island, if I'm not mistaken, is the northwesternmost, considered still a Hawaiian island. If you look at that entire chain of island, you'll see a very clear trend, which is the islands on the lower right, the most southeast, which is the Big Island, are the biggest, and the ones in the upper left-hand corner, the northwest, are the smallest. And that they weren't born that way. They changed that way. They all were once as big, probably, as the Big Island, but they all shrunk over time. And that wasn't because of climate change. That was because erosion, right? It's a fact of life. Island grows. Volcanic eruptions kind of grow the island, like the Big Island, still growing. They grow. And then, a long story, I don't want to get into the science of it. The volcanoes stop, because the islands actually move. There's actual plate tectonics. Actually, the islands are moving to the northwest like an inch every 1,000 years, whatever the number is. Islands are moving to the northwest. And so after a while, they're off of this little hot spot where the volcano pops up, and so they move off, and the volcanoes stop, like on Oahu, for example. In Maui, the volcanoes stop. And as soon as the volcanoes stop, as soon as the island stops growing, it starts shrinking. So it shrinks. Island shrinks. And because it shrinks, well, if your home is on the edge, which a lot of these homes are, they're on the edge, island shrinks. Sooner or later, you got no more island. Boom, it falls. So that's the long and short. There's a whole kinds of issues they've been trying to kind of, there's all kinds of legislation. You're not supposed to, for example, you're not supposed to go in. There's the link. Thank you, Tom. And you know what? I can't click on that link. Darn it. I'll leave that link up in case you want to type in that long link. Unfortunately, I thought, Tom, I apologize. You got that link for me, and I appreciate it, and I can't open the link, unfortunately. Anyway, there's been all kinds of legislation. You guys want to kind of chime in on this and maybe what's going on in Maui and the Big Island and Oahu? There's laws. You cannot build seawalls. They don't want people building up seawalls, and I believe that's good reason. And so these people, they've tried other approaches like growing plants and trying to grow, sort of things that are going to stop the encroachment, but you can't stop the shrinking of the islands. You can't, the Big Island, one of these, in a zillion years, the Big Island will be the size of Kauai. And there's no amount of seawalls that you can do that's going to stop that. So when the big storms come, like the ones we just had, it chunks away at the beach. And it's a fact of life. Let's get some commentary clockwise. Dylan, then Scott, then Heidi. Anything you want to share about on sort of ocean homes falling into the ocean? It's not a problem get on the Big Island, Dylan, but what's your take on all this?
Simple. Don't buy a house on the water and you don't have to worry about it.
This is why Polynesians built their homes up in the mountains. This is why beachfront property was the least valuable property of all. They used to bury their dead. Then us Howleys come and we want to live on the beach. Scott?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I sold a couple of actually record-breaking oceanfront lots on the North Shore, and I had a client on one of those who had access to satellite imagery going back many years of the coastline up there, and he looked many years ago and up at present time, and there were areas of the North Shore that had almost no erosion, and there were other pockets that had significant erosion, and that area is one of those areas. So we stayed away from that area. I mean, it's going to happen, especially. It was interesting because a lot of the issues started to happen when the north swells were coming in earlier before the beach was replenished. So during the summer, the sand shifts and moves and goes away some. And if you get big swells, 20, 30, 40-foot swells, they come way up and it starts to eat at that land. And it started to happen some years ago. But yeah, I mean, the secret to me is, like you said, eventually they're all going to end up in the ocean. If you want to enjoy it during your lifetime and not be impacted, there are certain pockets that you should focus on.
Yeah, and you just gotta, again, this is where experience comes in. Know where you're buying, and you want someone who's been around that knows the issue. Heidi, has there been any issues of that in Maui? What's the story of sort of people buying on the beach and homes falling into the water? I haven't heard a story about that for a long time.
Well, it's absolutely a big issue. I mean, erosion, sea level rise considerations. And then, I mean, the other thing is if you're buying an oceanfront home and it gets destroyed in a storm or something, you're not necessarily going to be allowed to rebuild it because it might not be in the right setback area. One of the issues on Maui right now is actually in a condominium complex where there's multiple buildings at this oceanfront condominium, and one of the oceanfront buildings was actually evacuated over a year ago because it's basically sitting on top of a seawall and it has structural issues. The condominium complex has applied to the county for permits to repair it, and basically they're saying no. So perhaps these 12 units might need to be relocated or removed permanently. So yeah, I would say it's definitely something that buyers need to know about. I mean, everybody wants to be oceanfront, but I mean, there's also considerations with that.
Yeah. So word of the wise is this has been happening for a million years. It's going to continue happening for the rest of time. You have to be careful about where you're buying. Sea level, and the sea levels have been, if you look at the curve of sea level rise, if you look at the graph, you go back 100,000 years, it's a straight line. It's a straight line of sea level rise. So sea level rise has been happening forever. There's interesting controversy on the sea level rise, just to kind of geek out for a moment over here. There's some interesting controversies on the sea level rise. They're not exactly sure whether the sea levels are in fact rising or if the lands are sinking. So at the end of the day, it's still the same, right? Land, the water levels go up, whether you're sinking or whether they're rising. God, who knows? But that's that. Hey, Auntie Joyce has just joined with us. So glad to have finished with this time change. I'm so late. We'll have to watch, repeat to catch up. So sorry. Nothing to be sorry about. The only thing that's sorry is that we're sorry that you weren't here with us earlier. We're sorry, not you. You don't need to be sorry. We're sorry, but we are glad that you are here with us. Yeah, actually, time change. It's going to be interesting what's going to happen on the time change piece. You guys heard about this? There's looks like it's going through the federal congressional process that daylight savings time looks like it's going to be permanent. There won't be a switch back and forth between daylight savings and standard time. They're going to be stuck on daylight. Now that's okay. But I wonder if Hawaii is going to switch, because man, this 6 hour, the 3 hour and the 6 hour thing is a killer for Hawaii during daylight savings time right now. One of the reasons why we moved the show to 9 o'clock is to keep your folks' time the same. We're starting now an hour earlier. Hawaii does not change daylight savings and standard time. We stick with standard all year long, or whatever. We don't change. So right now, the East Coast is 6 hours. The West Coast is 3 hours. Normally, on the other side of during standard time, it's 2 hours to the West Coast and 5 hours to the East Coast, which is a little bit easier. What do you guys think? Dylan, do you know, Dylan, you've got the best political sort of feed. Have you heard anything about what's going on locally? Are they going to switch, or have you heard anything? I wonder if they're going to do that.
I haven't been tracking that. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you guys hear about, I'm wondering what's going to happen with that. My prediction is going to be, if in fact it passes, Hawaii is going to. My guess. Here's my prediction. My guess that Hawaii is going to switch to. We're going to switch to an hour, so we're still stay with 2 hours to the West Coast and 5 hours to the East Coast. That's my guess. That is my guess. We'll see if that's going to be the case. It's. Go on to our diamonds and deals. There's a big topic I want to talk about, and I want to get this part completed first, because it's one of our kind of cool things to do on the show. So we got all of our friends from Dylan and Scott and Heidi. They put together products. They put together houses that they think are either diamonds or deals, or sometimes both. They're usually aspirational. They're awesome. So let's get this party started and see who's up first. Okay, so we got, this is Lahaina. Beautiful place. Kahoma Village Loop, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1.6. That's a deal. Heidi, what are we looking at?
So this is a newer single family home. It was built in 2020, and you can see in the aerial view, it's just a few blocks away from the beach. And the beach it's closest to is Baby Beach, because the water is so calm, you can just put your baby in the water. And 1.6 million, I mean, I would say any home right now that's on the market is a diamond and a deal. But this is kind of typical of what you're going to see for, residential full-time living in an area close to the beach.
Camp looks pretty cool to me. I love high ceilings. That's such a nice effect, right? That high ceiling approach, and that view, Heidi, that view that's in the upper right hand corner, is that the view from the house, or is that the overhead view, kind of like a drone view looking down and kind of where the area is to give you a sense of proximity?
That is a drone shot just showing the proximity to the ocean.
Got it.
There's no really view from the house.
Right. You just got,
Yeah.
you're in the residential area, but you got that walk to Baby Beach, which is cool. Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. Okay, let's see. Paiko Lagoon listed for Paiko Lagoon. That is one of my favorite places. Paiko Lagoon 4.25. Scott, what's this?
Yeah, I showed this the other day, and it was just a stunning home. So it's off of Cal Highway. You have a flag lot, so that means you have a long driveway from the highway down to this where it opens up, where the house is, and it's lagoon frontage. And that Paiko Lagoon is a preserve, so it's protected. But this home was stunning. I mean, you come into this large courtyard area with this pool, this entertaining area where you have the house is a U basically around the pool. And then off the front of the house, you have basically 1,000 square foot covered lanai where you're looking out across Paiko Lagoon, across the ocean to Coco Head, where you have, sunrises. But the home was designed by Peter Vincent, who's a well-known local architect. They did a phenomenal job. It has a guest quarters above the garage as well. And the other bedrooms other than the master are guest suites that aren't connected inside the house. You come out of it to go into outside to go into the main portion of the house. So if you're a single couple and you want to have a lot of friends and family, but you want everybody to have their space, including you, then it's a good setup. But it was a beautiful home, stunning finishes. I did a really nice job with it.
It is unbelievable. That area, Paiko Lagoon, also is a rare. I mean, if you folks look at that area, this would talk about a diamond. You look at that area, that lagoon there. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that anywhere else on Oahu. I don't know if there's anything like that on Maui or the Big Island, but this is just an unbelievable property. Thanks, Scott, for sharing that one. That's aspirational. All right, let's go to our next one here. Ooh, this is cool. Dylan, what do we got here? 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 23 acres, $1 million. What do we got, Dylan?
I know they should have went 999, right?
Right?
Keep it under $1 million. Then I could have said it was under $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, we feature a lot of properties on the west side, but this is actually on the east side in the Mountain View area. I mean, it kind of looks like could be the Midwest or something, right? I mean, it's beautiful, pretty flat pasture. There's a little pond on the property. Not a huge, extravagant home, but it's actually got 2 buildings. So it's got a home, and then the other one's kind of an open building that you can see in that bottom left picture there, where you can do entertaining or gatherings and have some extra additional space. But fully fenced, it's got 6 paddocks. So if you're looking to do some type of farming or small cattle operation, just a beautiful, really, really nice property and pretty good value. $43,000 an acre. And if you look at what property costs per acre if you buy it individually, it's pretty hard to find nice usable land like this that isn't totally overgrown and needs a lot of work. So yeah, ready to go. And I just thought the pond was really cool too. It's not something that's real common on the Big Island, having natural water features like that. So
that's and I got your I'm on your mailing list, and so I saw this featured on your email this morning. Is this you mentioned that there's a cattle operation currently going on this thing? What's
that was small. Yeah, they have 6 paddocks, so there's a small cattle operation on the property. You can't you can't do a ton of cattle because you just don't have enough feed, and you have to rotate the pastures and stuff. But with 6 different paddocks, you can do you could probably have 15 or 20 head of cattle.
Yeah, so you're not going to be like a cattle rancher, but you'll have it's kind of a what they call a gentleman farmer kind of a deal.
Yeah,
yeah. It's so.
But this is a really fertile area. If you wanted to do vegetable farming or fruit trees, I mean, you get a lot of rain, and so you don't need any irrigation, and it's a great real. It's where like the plantations were, sugar plantations were back in the day. So yeah, if you're looking to farm, great opportunity.
Yeah, that is again there's been a bunch of folks that have asked for, hey, I want to kind of start a small farm. This would be one of them. Heather popped in. Thank you, Heather, so much for this wonderful comment. 1 vote for joining the Eleanor Ohana. Heather is an alumni. She just finished the last cohort. Great info and local insight. You meet some cool, like-minded people who could potentially become new friends once you move to Hawaii, or if you're already there. Thank you, Heather. Really, really appreciate that. Thanks for the shout out. It was you were great. Everyone's great, but you were wonderful at the thing. And we're glad that you were a part of it, and glad that you've entered into the Ohana. All right, we got a few. We're doing good on time. So I want to give a quick thing. If you've got a question, now's the time to pop it in the comments. I think we took care of sort of everyone's comments. If you got a comment, pop it in, because we got about 12 minutes left. And what I want to do right now is I want to go to the topic that I had for today. I want us to touch on kind of a current sort of a current thing of the moment. And I kind of wanted to kind of talk about here's the question. What does it feel like during wartime in Hawaii? Now, Dylan and Heidi, how many years have you been in? What year did you move out to Hawaii, Heidi?
I moved to Hawaii January 2014.
2014. Okay. So you're coming to your 8-year anniversary. Scott's been here for 20 years. I've been here for almost 40 years. No, Scott, is it 20 years, Scott, or longer than that?
Yeah, 22.
Okay, 22 years. 22 years. I think I'm pushing 40 years in Hawaii. Dylan, you've been born and raised here. So to a certain degree of other, we've been through sort of some conflicts and sort of war in Hawaii. Hawaii, I don't know if you folks are aware of this or not, but Hawaii used to get if not all, I think most if not all of its oil came actually from Russia. That's affected on us. there's also, there's a. I wanted to kind of talk about what the vibe feels like in Hawaii during kind of wartime. Dylan, maybe you can. This might be a chat between you and me, Dylan. I'm not too sure, but well, Scott, you've been through some I think some conflicts that have been here locally. Dylan, how would you characterize what's the and Dylan, you actually are you are serving right now in the armed forces on the reserve, if I'm not mistaken. What, Dylan, how would you characterize, what does it feel like? What's the vibe locally, sort of during wartime kind of a situation? Why don't you kind of start with that?
There's always a level of uncertainty. I mean, I think, there's kind of two groups of people: the ones that just are happy-go-lucky and don't let any of that stuff get to them, and they just go on with life. And then there's the other ones where, there's people talking about stocking up on meat, because that's like the latest thing, is that we're going to run out of meat coming to the island, and of course toilet paper and other things like that. But definitely the cost of fuel has gone up pretty significantly and continues to go up, and that's going to affect most people's day-to-day lives the most when there's international conflict and things like that. So there's a big military community in Hawaii. Hawaii has the largest, the highest per capita rate of people that serve in the armed forces. So definitely in the community, there's a lot of people that have concern when things like this happen, and most people have some personal connection to somebody that's serving. But for me right now, I just don't feel like there has been a big change in the vibe per se. It's one of those things that's so far off. It doesn't, other than gas prices, doesn't really touch you personally. So not too much yet. I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's gonna change necessarily. And I actually have a limited perspective, because the last big conflict in Iraq, I was there in Iraq. I wasn't here, so I missed it. I missed what the vibe was like here in Hawaii.
Well, I know that it changes it depends. The change hasn't occurred yet, but like the visitor industry, like I remember the Gulf Wars, tourism was like, boom, it was almost like COVID, right? The beaches were empty. Nobody flew over. Everyone kind of clamped down. That hasn't happened yet. So that's kind of interesting. Heidi, what
was interesting being in California though, was the gas prices were significantly higher in California. They were regularly over $6 everywhere we went. So you think it's bad here? It could always be worse.
I just paid $550. I just paid $550 for premium just the other day.
Yeah, everything near downtown San Diego was pretty much over $6, and then when you got further out, like towards the Indian reservations and stuff, dipped down $5.80 and stuff. But yeah, it was pretty much over $6 most places.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Heidi, what's the vibe sort of like right now in Maui about this? There's fuel prices that are going up. Is there anything else that people are kind of mentioning or talking about, or what's kind of going on over there?
Well, I think over the past few years, we've gotten used to living with just a lot of uncertainty in general. So it just feels more like that. Gas prices, it's around $5.50 a gallon to fill up on most parts of Maui. In Hana, which is the remote east side of the island, gas prices I hear are over $7. But I do hear anecdotally the price of rental cars has gone way down since before. So where I am, it's hard to say, because I'm around a lot of people that are on vacation and visiting, and they seem to be ignoring it for the most part.
Yeah, we got lucky.
So it's very far away. It hasn't directly impacted us yet, and hopefully it stays that way.
Hopefully it stays that way. Yeah. I'm thinking like one thing's going to go wrong, and then we're all going to like overload Costco and pick up all the toilet paper. That's like a typical Hawaii thing, right? First thing you go for is toilet paper. There's a historical reason. Scott, what's your observation? How does this? What do you think is going on? How do you think things feel? Whether you're getting anecdotally, how's it compared to previous conflicts that you've lived through here? What's your sense?
Yeah, I think the effect is on the economic side, obviously, inflationary components, gas prices. Tell Carl, you got to go buy more Tesla stock, because everyone's going to be switching to electric cars and PV here shortly. But and I'll make the announcement.
Sorry, but look, he's there. He's got his PV system building. There he goes.
Yep, he's a smart man. He's on it. Yeah, and So I always say, I mean, this conflict's halfway around the world. So was Iraq. There were other components to Iraq. So I kind of feel like it's the same as when all the turmoil that was going on in the mainland in Detroit and LA and other places. It's like, meh, we're out in the middle of the Pacific. We're living our island vibe a little bit. It hasn't affected us some socially other than economic, and even the economic impact is just in the beginning. We do, however, have Pacific Command here. If we have a Pacific conflict, that's going to have much more direct impact to us because there are 7 military bases here and Pacific Command and Pearl Harbor is here. So that's when I would say we would be more impacted and people would be more on edge at that point.
I'll tell you one thing that comes to my mind is that this is the safest place on earth. That's what comes to my mind. Like, this is the safest place on earth. We're the most remote. We're literally in the middle of nowhere. We have the world's greatest Navy that is based here. So there's defenses up the wazoo. And if anyone's if anyone's coming over other than missiles, which we had that missile scare several years ago, but other than missiles, we know that they're coming. So there's a little bit of that as well. We got a couple of comments, and we're gonna start to close it up over here. Tom, amazes to me how environmentally sensitive Hawaii is. That most of the utilities are still fossil fuel power plants. By the way, note that Kauai is 60% clean energy. Yeah, Tom, good points. Hawaii, because of its location, the only way we can power those power plants is through fossil fuels. We don't have water. We don't have rivers. We don't have a Niagara Falls. We don't have that kind of stuff. And solar is extraordinarily expensive, not just in the cost of the equipment itself, but you think about land use, how much land it takes. It's extraordinarily expensive. Kauai's lucky they did make the move, although I think Kauai's rates are still higher. So yes, Kauai has made the move to a lot of renewables, but there's another problem with renewables. Renewables don't work really well when it's cloudy and rainy. Anyone who's got solar plus battery knows. Answer. Okay, let's get a few comments over here, and then we'll start to wrap it up. Christy had put up a question for us here. Question: how close to condo buildings in Honolulu is the rail system going to be? Christy, it's going to all depend. Some areas there's condos like right next to it. Other areas it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So it's going to all depend on what's going to happen in there. Is it going to be loud for the condos near once it's done? Yes, it will be. It's a classic rail line. So good old rail line. It's maybe a little bit quieter. It's not going to be quite as noisy, for example, as the one in Chicago, the L, which is based on sort of rickety metal kind of things, but it's concrete. It's steel on steel. I would definitely. Scott. That's going to require a whole new area of analysis.
If you're in a condo in Oahu, it's going to be noisy. It's like a city, right? So it doesn't really matter. There's going to be a highway close by. There's going to be ambulances. There's going to be all that stuff. So yeah.
So you want to live high. You want to live high up that condo, high up that high rise, and if you can help it, don't have a rail facing unit. At least be on the other side of the building. So Alex gave us a nice doomsday scenario. Wouldn't Hawaii get bombed first, especially since all the bases there are closest to the conflict? Well, like I said, it wouldn't get bombed. It might get missiled. We might get missiled, but hey, if we get missiled, then I don't worry about a thing, because then, put the target on my back and just kind of get it over with. So, I don't have to worry about it. All right. I think we got everybody. Carl's comment about Carl PV. Yeah, Carl, Carl, it's not cheap, right? It's not cheap. So you're basically prepaying. I mean, I did long story. I did a PV and a battery system last year because of necessity, for a variety of reasons. I'm glad I did now, because now when I hear about the rate increase, we're going to get a 10%, anywhere between a 10 and 20% increase to our electricity rates, which are already the highest in the nation. So that's almost to think about. It's not going to affect us too much. It likes to affect me, but that's only because I've prepaid my electric bill for the next 10 years, Carl. See, I've prepaid it for 10 years. Auntie Joyce, rental cars have gone up. Renting on Oahu for 140 days, it was $800, and now it's $1,200 on Costco Travel. Yeah, well, there we go. All right. I think I caught everybody's thing. Jeremy, I'll be calling you back soon, Scott. Just as an FYI, I appreciate all the perspective and of all the parties on the show, though. Yep, Jeremy, glad to have you with us, and glad you're working with Scott. You are in the right hands, my friend. You are in the right hands. All right, let's wrap this up, folks. Let's move to our closing. We're going to try something a little bit different over here. We're going to go to our closing motivational thoughts over here. There may be some new graphics over here. Like I've told the team, if they want to, they could change their own picture instead of just mine. So here we go. Dylan, Dylan, why don't you just do it? You do it.
Yeah, every day is a good day, and if you don't believe that, just try missing one of them. So I think that's a good perspective on what we've been talking about. Is even there's lots of stuff going on in the world, you just got to be happy to be alive sometimes. Every day's a good day.
You know, Dylan, what I love about, one of the favorite things I love about you is that whenever I call and say, hey, how's it going, man? Your response is living the dream, which I took that and made that my tagline.
Maybe I should have used this for the context today, but one of my personal philosophies in life is I'm having a good day as long as I'm not getting shot at, right? So once you've been shot at, you know what a bad day is like. So given the context of
God bless you. God bless you, Dylan. Thank you for serving. But boy, isn't that the truth? That gives one heck of a perspective on life. Any day you're not getting shot at is a good day. Yeah. Jeez.
Absolutely.
Good one. Heidi, what's yours?
The ultimate of being successful is giving yourself the time to do the things you want to do. And I just love this because there's so many definitions of success, and I think living is a creative act for each person. And this is just really about being thoughtful and putting your priorities in order and deciding how you want to live your life.
You know, Heidi, I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is no place I believe is more true than in Hawaii, where the measure of true wealth in Hawaii is not the material things that you possess, but the measure of true wealth in Hawaii is the time you have off. That's what we use on bragging rights, right? Bragging rights in Hawaii is not, I live in this neighborhood, or I got this car, or I got this house. Bragging rights in Hawaii is, I took the week off and I went on a tour. I did this or I did that. That is that. So very well said, Heidi. Very well said. Scott, what's yours?
Yeah, so true. And I guess I'm piggybacking off of Heidi. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. So right back to what we were just talking about now. So
what does that mean to you, Scott? That's a really deep thought, actually. That's really deep.
I mean, no matter what, it's just whatever path you want to go down, go down. And if it's like you said, if you want to take a week off and enjoy that moment, whatever the moment is in front of you, make the most out of it. And, for me, I'm always diving into things that are outside of my comfort zone. So once a year, I always pick something that I've never done before. A couple of years ago, I started doing oil painting with a palette knife. I decided to do that one year. I took golf lessons, taking woodworking, things that shake it up for me. And when you do something that's different and you haven't done before and it's outside of your comfort zone, it forces you to learn, and you learn different and new perspectives, which is a part of me moving out here to Hawaii to begin with. I started to learn a different way of living and different cultures, and you just grow and expand on that. And that's the path you're taking in life. That's how I choose to go at it.
Awesome. And it's kind of funny, but Dylan, we didn't plan this out, folks. We did not plan this out. But if you look, the theme for today is all unified, because here's mine. Proverbs, my favorite book, Proverbs 23:4. Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Be wise enough to desist, which is right in line over here, right? It's like, it's not about the money. I mean, you got to have it. You got to buy groceries. You got to have all those things. You got to do it. But man, there's more to life than that. Be wise enough to desist. So, all right, gang, with that, it was a great show as usual. And Tom just joined us. Tom Main just joined us from the UK. Tom, yeah, time wrong. Sorry, buddy. We had to switch this one out. You got to get on the newsletter. The newsletter's where I gave the update, but we'll hope to see you next time, Tom. You'll be with us. And Carl, instead of building overland railways, we should be digging tunnels. Carl, we've debated this out, like you have no idea, buddy. And I was personally involved with this rail project. I was against it 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Tunnels, all that stuff was brought up, and all good ideas. But here we are, Carl, with the worst project ever known to mankind. Anyway, look, we need to end on a positive note. You guys have been great. Love to be with you all again. See you all in a couple weeks. Let's go counterclockwise. Heidi, then Scott, then Dylan. Say goodbye to everybody.
Aloha, everybody. Have a great week.
Have a good week. Thanks for the questions and for joining in.
Have an awesome weekend, everybody.
All right, folks. Aloha. Have a great one. Talk to you all in 2 weeks.